Hello, world. My name is Hobson King,
My name is Mark Ray Radman.
and we're here again with our social segment. Much like last week, this is by the request of a few of our viewers who have said that this is an important issue that they want us to tackle on this show. So we're going to be talking about mass incarceration. Um, this is something that isn't talked about as much as it should be because of how disturbing it is, but it's something that needs to be brought up frequently in the future.
With this issue, you got to think about all of the people being affected by mass incarceration. First, there's the person getting incarcerated. We'll talk about the demographic in a second. But then you have to think about the families and how they're affected. If they're a rich family, how it affects them. If they're a poor family, how it affects them. How the judicial system would handle them differently. Because having money means you can afford a lawyer. Not having money means you can't. And if depending on who you are in your family, if you're the head of the household, if you're somebody that's bringing in money to the family, what does that do to the median house income? Like in your community, like what effects does that have on more than just yourself, more than just the individual that's being locked up? It's a much bigger issue than we're making it. We're making it seem like people just need to stop committing crimes. That to me is the secondary issue. The primary issue is the driving force behind the crime, but I feel like I should let you speak a little bit more. I get into detail about the point I was about to make.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time for this one. Just to let you know, this episode might run a little bit longer than our 15 to 20 minutes. It's not going to be an hour. It's not going to be 30 minutes, but we're going to talk about this and we're gonna hash it out. So the United States is the world leader in incarceration. We have over 2 million people behind bars. That's a 500% increase in the amount of people incarcerated in the last 40 years. The last 40. Not the last 100, the last 40, there's been a 500% increase in the amount of people incarcerated. We're 5% of the world's population, but we hold 25% of the world's prisoners. These numbers, you have to ask why. Like, why? And we'll get into that. You said what?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
That's what I was
when we're running around the world masquerading as superheroes, saving the world from humanitarian crisis, but we have the most amount of prisoners and a quarter of the world's prison population. Maybe we're doing something wrong.
Independent study or whatever you want to call it. He had went over there and he had basically recorded what she did. He talked to her and he explained her life. She is what they called an ambivalent merchant. Ambivalent merchants are people that walk on foot and sell whatever they're selling. It was pretty intense what she was doing. She was carrying her sale, like she was selling medicine. She carried the basket on her head. She was carrying her baby with her. She said that she would walk 5 miles a day making her sales. She said that it was difficult for her to do this job because, it's illegal for her to sell medicine on the streets. But she only sells medicine on the streets because, she's not very well educated because systems in place haven't put her in that position to where she had those opportunities. There's not too many job opportunities. So she does what she can to make money. She said that if you do it well, if you invest your money correctly, you can make twice as much money as you put in. Class watched it. Everybody was talking about, how sad it is, how they need to help her. I think in the way that I do, raised my hand, and I said, this young lady's a drug dealer. This is the same type of person that Donald Trump wants to put in jail. At that moment in time, Donald Trump was saying that he wanted to give drug dealers the death penalty. And I was just appalled how we could sit in the classroom and they could look at her and see somebody that's going through the exact same thing as people going through in the hood in the USA. And they saw her and they saw a sob story and they wanted to help her. But at the same time, if they saw somebody doing it outside their house or 10 minutes from their home, they would say that they're a thug or a criminal, and they would say that they're a cancer to the community. I think that we need to be a bit more sympathetic to people in the community and change the way that our judicial system and our criminal system works, and be more of a reformative process than just locking people up. Because that to me seems like what it is.
Yeah, for 100%. Just this is going to be some background information, just because we're going to talk about the disproportionality that, or the fact that minorities are arrested at an way higher rate for similar crimes, and put into jail for longer times. And this isn't something new. This is something that has been going on since 1865. We talked about the black codes on our Juneteenth episode. These were things like if you gathered more than two freedmen in the town square at one time, you could be arrested. Um, you know, and that a lot of this was because the 13th Amendment said that unpaid labor was illegal unless as punishment for a crime. And this is also where the police force originated. Police were brought into the country to enforce black codes and to keep freed slaves in check. These are the facts. The Ku Klux Klan worked directly with Southern governments to abolish the Freedmen's Bureau and all political instruments designed to secure Negro supremacy. This sounds very, very familiar if you look at the Charleston marches, where they're chanting "Take our country back" and saying that white people are going to become a minority and they're going to become the oppressed people in the country.
You will not replace us.
Yeah, you will not replace us. So these ideals that are resurfacing are not new. They're something that have been taught through generations. Now, laws like mischief, insulting gestures, all of these ambiguous laws you could just arrest people for just to secure free labor. And these things were happening from the end of the Civil War until about World War II. And they're maybe not on the same. I don't want to say not on the same scale because it's a pretty large scale that they're happening on now. But maybe not in the same severity in the terms of the number of lynchings have gone down. Depending on how you define lynching. But in today's world, black men 18 to 35 have a 1 in 3 chance of going to prison in their lifetime. 1 in 3. That means if we had one more anchor on this show, one of us out of the 3 of us is going to go to jail in our lifetime for one reason or another. That's absurd. Blacks and Hispanics, they consume and are found in possession of drugs and narcotics at the exact same rate as white citizens. But they're charged and convicted at way higher rates and receive way worse penalties.
There's other implications that come with the drug issue. I will refer to it as the war on drugs. The war on drugs because that's what I believe has fueled it in recent years, like at least since the 80s, since the Reagan administration. The war on drugs resulted in over-policing in certain communities. And over-policing results in more arrests. And when people get arrested, now they have a criminal record. When you have a criminal record, now you can't get the same jobs you could have gotten before. And now that you can't get the same jobs you couldn't have gotten before, you can't make as much money. Now you need money. How do you make more money? You just went to jail for doing something. If it was drug related, you know how to make money, I'm assuming. Now you're back in a position to where you kind of you're left with very few options of what you can and can't do because
Either,
the way that
either possibly flipping burgers for minimum wage, or doing what you know unfortunately, what you were taught. And you know, this is a hard topic to talk about just because um, a lot of the same things that happened in the past are still happening now, but they're just, you know, hidden under a different lens. So, um, you know, the fact that, you know, people love to say that black communities are crime ridden, they're doing this to themselves. Just like Mark said, if we've been dealing with this disproportionate incarceration rate since 1865, and we've been living in a, you know, we were forced to be segregated for up until what 1965, 19 or 70, and then after they integrated, there was what they called the white flight, which formed our suburbs of the day. And you know, they went and formed their neighborhoods, and black people were still,
Nice white flag.
yeah, the government sub like the government gave them money to do that. You know, and at this time black people are still, you know, still dealing with the same incarceration problems that they were dealing with before, but being put back into their own black communities. And like Mark said, if the way the system works is once you get out of jail, you can't get a job. You know, it's harder to get loans to buy a house. You know, it's hard to reestablish yourself in the community, and you can't do anything without money. So you have to get money somehow. So this perpetuates the problem. And you know, this isn't to say that there's not things that we can work on. There is, but you know, the education system in black communities, urban communities, is a lot worse than it is in the average suburban community. I know I went to school in the suburbs, so I know that there are good schools out there. Mark, where tell them about tell them about your school. And this isn't and just this isn't me trying to call Mark out. Mark got the same degree I got, so
Yeah,
he overcame more.
I'm proud of where I'm from. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. I went to Dayton Public Schools, and then in sixth grade I transferred, and I went to Trotwood. And Dayton Public Schools, as of last year, was ranked 607 out of the 608 school districts in the state of Ohio. And Trotwood was ranked 608 out of the 608 school districts in the state of Ohio. So I'm a product of the two, at this point, worst school districts in the state of Ohio. But I could get into how they rank these schools. I'm literally like living proof that the kids at the schools aren't dumb. I'm not going to say I was the smartest kid there because I really don't think that I was. I might have been the most vocal. I might have spoke up the most, but I know people that were a lot more fluent in English or a lot better at math. Like, I was just the one who wanted to go to school the most because that's what I was driven to do. I have goals. Like, I want to eventually become the mayor of Trotwood, and I can't be the mayor of Trotwood without a degree, in my opinion. I have to have the accolades. I have to have what I need to have to get there. But my Trotwood and Dayton education did not properly prepare me for Lehigh University, where we went to college. I had to take developmental calculus. I struggled through certain courses because we don't have the funding to do everything that other schools do. Like when I did my internships, when I worked there during my college career, I worked for the city of Charlotte. I worked in the government, and I asked people questions. I asked the school board questions. I asked the mayor questions. I asked people that work for the city questions, and it really comes down to how much money we have to support what we're trying to do. And money has to come from certain places and go certain places. In black communities, if the property values aren't the highest, like, you know, the black communities that they put us in, the ghettos, even Trotwood in itself, Trotwood is not a ghetto. Trotwood is a suburb, but it's a suburb that suffered from white flight, so it's a predominantly black suburb now, so the houses somehow are not worth that much. That's neither here or there, but the point that I'm making is that it all comes down to how much money you have to support your community and support your schools to teach them certain things, to get better teachers, to get better supplies for your school, to get laptops, to get books, to get... You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you're in a better community. If you're in a community that was provided with government subsidies to jumpstart itself, and to sustain itself. Now you have businesses and you have companies that want to relocate to your community. You have places that want to be there, and that just drives the community. When we talk about the schools, we're not talking about the teachers. We're not talking about the faculty. We're not talking about the administrators that are running the schools not doing their job. I went there. I know the people did their job. The rankings are, I'm not going to say that we need to dismiss them, but they're about standardized testing. And to be completely honest, we were more focused on passing the graduation exam than passing standardized tests, because your diploma is more, I mean, your high school diploma is more important than a college degree, because if you don't have a high school diploma, you can't get a college degree.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So the focus in certain communities are placed in different places. And because your focus is so heavy on your diploma, you're not thinking about a degree. You're thinking about getting a job after you get your diploma. And with the way that the country's being ran right now, where, you know, certain businesses are probably going to leave because of the way Donald Trump is doing his tariffs and all that, he's going to hurt these people. He's going to hurt people that don't have the degrees to get the tech jobs, to get the jobs in higher paying communities, to get the jobs that you can't get if you have a felony. You see what I'm saying? It's a cycle, and we're kind of stuck in it because of our past that we refuse to acknowledge.
Yeah, and you know, this isn't to say that you can't make it out. Obviously, you know, Mark has a degree from a top 50 institution in the country, which shows that. Yeah, yeah, it shows that the kids aren't incapable of learning, but they don't have the resources to progress past a certain point. And if you look at the depreciation of home values after it's usually caused by, oh, this is a high crime neighborhood. High crime neighborhoods are usually patrolled by police a lot more. If you patrol a neighborhood more than you patrol another neighborhood, then you're probably going to catch more criminals in that neighborhood because you're patrolling it more. But then you report those statistics, and then the house value depreciates, and then businesses don't want to move there because they think, oh, we're going to get robbed if we move there. So they don't want to move into these neighborhoods, which means that, just like Mark said, this cycle is just, it's perpetuated. And this is all as a result of mass incarceration starting in 1865. So this is, you know, the amount of progress that minority communities have made in that time it's a lot. You know, I'm proud of the progress we've made, but it's not enough at the same time. It's not nearly enough. You know, when blacks and Hispanics are making up 30% of the American population, but 50% of the prison population, I'd say there's something wrong. Especially when majority of these are nonviolent drug offenses, and statistically, minorities and white people use, purchase, and consume drugs at the same rate, the exact same rate. Um,
Almost like you're looking to catch certain people. It's
you know,
almost like you're targeting certain groups of people to search, to patrol their neighborhoods, and then ignore the symptoms of over policing and mass incarceration on a community. You're ignoring the effects of those two very important things and attributing the side effects like unemployment, high crime rates, violence. This is all driven by poverty, which is perpetuated by the systems that we have in place that lock you up for being poor and trying to make money, and then stopping you from getting a job because you've been locked up.
and the funny thing about the prison system is that it's, in theory, it's supposed to be a rehabilitation system. It's supposed to get you ready to be reintroduced into the community. Um, but I think, oh, actually, I know that when people are released from jail, people that are released from federal prisons, 75% of them go back in the next 5 years. So,
We don't have an issue with
yeah,
that.
how good of a rehabilitation process is it being locked in a cell, you know, getting 2 meals and being worked for a penny a day? How much is that rehabilitating somebody to get back into society? And this is, 60% of incarcerated people are mentally ill, 70% are drug users, 65% haven't completed high school. This is all showing a pattern that the prison system isn't focused on helping people who are drug users. When 70% of people who go to jail have used drugs, and then they leave, and 75% of them come back. You know, they didn't help that person get rid of his drug problem. But now there's a lot of people in jail for nonviolent drug offenses, whether it be distribution or whatever. And now there's this whole movement of medical marijuana. We're going to make millions of dollars off the medical marijuana industry when you've been locking people up for life for selling marijuana in their communities. So it's like those kind of hypocritical things, those kind of hypocritical thought processes are what's so infuriating to us who who we know better. Yeah.
It's a slap.
And the bad thing about it is, like I said, 65% of these people who are in prison haven't received a high school education. So they don't know about all these different loopholes. They don't even know to look for them. They know that at the end of the month, there's going to be a bill that comes in the mail. And if I don't pay that bill, then my heat's going to be off and it's going to snow 2 feet this winter in the next week. So I need to get some money for the end of the month.
And I need it now.
And yeah, I can't wait to, apply to, UPS, wait 3 weeks for them to say yes or no, possibly, especially if you have a prison, a record. People don't have time to be doing that. And this isn't me advocating that committing crimes as a form of income is okay, but I'm saying under the circumstances it's understandable. And to say that these people need help isn't saying that, oh, you should give them handouts, buy them a house, and just fund their whole entire lives for the rest of forever. But instead of using $270 billion that they spend on the criminal justice system, why don't they invest that into the communities that are most affected by crime, invest that into their education, invest that into their infrastructure, invest that into different things that's, rehabilitation centers, to where they're going to actually make a difference and improve the quality of life in these neighborhoods to where they don't have to commit crimes in order to pay their bills.
It's very simple. Very simple. Address the issue at the root. Don't take it for face value. Don't say high crime rates are the issue.
Yeah, if you chop the branches off of a tree, the tree's going to keep growing. You chop those couple of branches off, but the tree's just going to keep growing. That's just trimming. That's trimming the hedges. That's not going to do anything. If you want to get rid of a bush, take it out, pull the roots out, and that's what the country refuses to do. And I'm not going to say I don't understand why, because you can see why if you look at the history of mass incarceration. You can see that it's systemic, and whether or not, the system is used intentionally to imprison black people at a higher rate today. Like if the government is still thinking, yes, let's keep the system to imprison black people, I don't know if they're saying that, but they're not saying that they need to fix it. So complicit, in my book, is just as guilty as the guy who's tying the noose. If you watch somebody get hung and don't say anything, you might as well have tied the noose. So honestly, we're fed up.
Fed up. I feel like the system should be there to help the community, not hurt the community. And where I'm from, I've seen the police hurt more than they've helped.
And those are the hard facts about it. It's hard to end it on such a sad note, but that this is the current state. The current state of these communities, the current state of our country. This is the reality that American citizens are having to live. So, You know, if you agree, comment. If you disagree, do some research because it's facts.
Yeah, do some research,
Honestly,
bro.
do some research because it's facts. But you can comment if you want. You could comment if you want. You know, it's all about conversation. We're here to educate and help progress. We're not here to digress or shoot anybody down. We're just saying don't be complicit in a system that we just told you about and that you can look up and find out about yourself. So like, comment, share. We're gonna be here next week, the week after that, and the week after that, dropping y'all the knowledge and the content. So subscribe, share with your friends. We appreciate you for tuning in. Much love to all our viewers, and be easy.